typically show up to the show.
Yeah, you're used to it.
Typically show up to the show.
Yeah, you're used
Turn
to it.
that off.
All right.
Live stream.
We are live, guys. We are live. Hey, right now, Ingrid just called me. She is in the backwoods of where she says she's on her way to get onions. She's going to be in the onion field tonight, loading up. They are palletized, so don't worry there. But she's gonna come in here. She's got audio only, so she'll be in here in just a minute. So today we're going to talk a little bit about we're going to get Ingrid's take. Listen, Ingrid's the type that, like, when she gets going, you could listen to her for an hour. I mean, she's got good insight. She knows what the hell she's talking about, and she's one of those drivers that, and Will, this, like, as a broker, there's something about finding a driver like that where you're just like, man, I want to work with him, like, every time, like, give as much praise. I mean, they're calm, they're being they're just being communicative. They're all over it, and they're smart, and they handle issues at the shipper or receiver, whatever it is. And so that's one thing she does. So how about this? She's gonna be jumping on here. I'm gonna shoot her text. But Tony, give us, right now, obviously, what you're seeing on the. I know for a fact you're seeing some drivers every single day, in this market, and you're at a place that's booming, in an area that's booming. What are you seeing, or what are you hearing from them that's any different than what you're used to?
Well, the only thing that I'm hearing from my drivers is that that everybody and their brother's hiring. There's a sign on every building you go to. There's ads. They're getting hit up, like, on their phones. They're getting hit up for CDL jobs, and they want to talk about pay and culture, and it's really competitive out there. And then you have to ask the drivers to, it's tough to keep people and have a higher expectation if you're not on the high end of the pay scale. It's tough to keep people and have a high expectation on the high end of the pay scale if you don't give them a way to be successful. I don't know, it's expecting much and then having a level of discipline that's high enough that is rewarding for them to have a sense of satisfaction. I hate to say we're always looking to onboard new people, because I don't want this culture of constant turnover. We have people that just don't fit sometimes, but we try and find them a home anyway, if it's within another plant or something. But we always want to keep our people no matter what. But sometimes the person just isn't a good fit for the job, even if they're a driver. Some guys that are over the road can't handle the local in and out and 100 miles a day versus 550, 600 miles a day that you would get being out on the road, when you're interacting with customers all the time.
With how diverse the industry is, and how much different types of freight and ways you could do it, it does take a driver, probably, especially if they're maybe a newer owner operator, maybe a newer company driver going from one or the other, to kind of find a niche, to find what they want to do and how.
It's crazy. I am one plant of many, and we have van trailers, straight trucks, straight flatbed trucks, Conestogas, curtain sides, step decks, and flatbeds. The only thing we don't have is tanker and reefer. Pretty sure we're doing everything else. No live floors, no walk-in floor trailers or anything either.
Oh, those are awesome. Yeah. So speaking of that, I was just talking to Ingrid. She was talking about onions, and I said I had to tell a story when we first started dispatching. Had a driver. I would get creative. We had really good loads going out to, like, Wyoming, Utah, Idaho, stuff like that. And then to get a load back, I ended up finding a guy that had wax out of Idaho, but I would kind of, like, maybe do two runs back in order to get him enough, because it's $1 a mile to get back to the Midwest. So, but I had a guy one time run down to Nebraska to get a load of potatoes. I thought, oh man, paid well and everything. Well, he called me. He's like, I'm in a freaking field. They'd be driving to the field, and they're shooting all these potatoes into my trailer with a they had the what do you call it?
Conveyor.
And So a lot of those are ran on like with a walking floor trailer, right? So like, but they just loaded him up like all the way to the brim, and then at delivery they put him on this ramp and tilted his trailer and shook it. And he's like, they're shaking the trailer. He said, calling me and stuff. I'm like, it's all right, just don't tell safety. But yeah, that was one of those times where he was freaking out, but it was his first time doing. He was a new owner operator. He'd never done anything like that. And to be honest with you, it was kind of, I mean, kind of freaked out. And but next time he went out there, he's like, hey, get me another potato load, because he like learned a lot. Like he learned, the process, and it does pay well. When you do the free, Brandon Bay always said like he made his living booking the freight that nobody else wanted to book. He was like that last minute truck that a supplier needed to have a truck drive out into the field to load strawberries to get to a Kroger or to get to somewhere for this or that or whatever it was. And there's temperature controls and all this stuff that like went into it, and it was just a pain in the butt. But he did have to book as many shipments, and also nobody wanted to do it.
Yep.
And so
there's always more money in the stuff that's less desirable.
Yeah, I think with drivers find that niche too. I mean, you see it all the time with flatbed guys. We had a lane for Ford that had went to rail, and we were getting on another lane, but all the guys that were running it, running frames, flatbeds and strap and go. That's what they did. And I'm like, hey, I got $4 a mile on dry van right now. I ain't doing that wussy dry van stuff. I'll sit at home and wait. And
Okay, is that how they unloaded?
oh my God. Hey, is that meme where they're launching a Landstar truck up into space?
No, this is how you unload potatoes.
I didn't know it went that high.
I don't think they shake it, but you got to grab your coffee out of the cup holder first.
Ingrid said there's places where like when they load the potatoes, you'll drive up on like a scale. It looks like a scale, and they'll shake it to level it all out and then put more in, like to get as much in as they can. But yeah, there's that meme where it's like U.S.'s anti-missile defense. It was like a Landstar truck.
Yeah, you can't go on those scale looking things with potato chips. That's what happens to them anyways. They're full when they leave the factory. That's just the trucks. That's the excuse, I'm told.
Ingrid just texted me. She said, I'm trying to hold signal. It keeps hitting me. I'm 9 miles away. This is awesome. I'm sorry, I'm hurrying. I'll be there as soon as I pull the brake or sooner. I was supposed to have been there and settled for y'all until 10 both directions, and LA was closed. A guy jumping out of a bridge with a gun. Oh my God. I get stopped. I'm hanging him my phone and dialing your number.
Hey, that's what happens. That stuff. I used to hate going to Detroit. I used to go to Detroit and Chicago a lot, and I would go to Chicago 5 times before I'd go to Detroit once. Detroit, 696 around Detroit, the loop, it's sunken down. There's walls on both sides. There's limited access. You're on a highway. And I was up there, and you can't just pop off the road there because you're on an access road like in Texas or something. And there was a shooting. There was like a drive-by shooting on the highway. Like some guy shot somebody else in another car. So I'm past the exit. Everything stopped. We're there. Somebody ends up dying. I'm in the truck.
Real quick, like,
huh?
Just throw that in there real. Somebody ends up dying. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Well, I didn't know what the details were, but I found out on the CB that there was a death. So there was an investigation and all of that. So we're sitting there for 6-7 hours. And, it's 200 and some miles from the house. I got to come home. I was local. I got a day cab. That was a long day. It happens. There's nothing you can do out there. You have no idea what's going to go on when you're out there driving every day.
I've been, oh my gosh, we have a lot of customers up in that area. So being in Fort Wayne, heck, I was up there. It seemed like there for a while, about every other week before, COVID and everything, visiting somebody or, and when you do that, our owner always said, you always try to get a hold and book a bunch of them, right? So if you got some other customers existing, whatever, at least meet with them or whatever it is while you're up there. But yeah, I don't know how many times I've either missed a meeting or had to call them and tell them I was going to be late because I'm literally sitting. There's so many potholes, right? And there's always like construction of some sort going on, and but they get it. They're like, no, they're like, oh yeah. I've had 3 people today, because of this, and I was late to work, and it's just like one of those things where they're just used to it. And I pride myself in not getting tickets because I know where the cops sit and what they do and how it works. I see them first, but I got the ticket up there because like everybody's flying and they got motorcycle cops, that hang off on the side, those Michigan guys. And there was a motor. There was
the light on the pole on the back of the bike.
there was one motorcycle cop on the left in the like over on the left side on the left lane. There was like a 4-lane at that point, and I was just following people. Well, the other guy in front of me like braked, and so I had to brake. Well, then I didn't brake soon enough, I guess. So that another motorcycle cop pulled me over. And was like, I was going X amount of speed within a motorcycle officer or whatever it was I got stopped for. And I'd never seen that before. Like 2 guys just like hanging out there. And it was like a 4-lane. Everybody's blasting out of Detroit. But yeah, those roads are nasty up there too, especially coming out in the spring.
Well, there's frost laws in Michigan too. You got to watch. You got to be kind of local to understand that when it gets below a certain degree or a certain time of year, there's different axle weights that you get to use in Michigan that aren't like they are now in the summer. Good stuff.
A lot of good freight up there though.
Yeah,
Well, what are your thoughts on Detroit?
I have a bunch of friends that are from there. I haven't spent a lot of time in Detroit proper myself, so I don't really have a great point of reference, but I do have a lot of friends that grew up there and whatnot. They probably would say I make fun of them, so because I do. They all end up moving from Detroit to Chicago anyway when they're down at school.
It's all about where you go. So like,
is 94 the worst road?
And it's the worst in the world, and they're all clogging it up. The Skyway in and out on the way in and out of it. It's the worst.
Yeah, and if you know that like some of the suburbs are like Auburn Hills and some of those places like that, we'll get up there for some golf outings for some of our customers. But like those are nice, and even in downtown. Last year we were downtown, and what did we do? We stay at the GM headquarters there. They've got like a hotel. That's pretty sweet. But there's some new areas down there that are pretty nice. I mean, there's like a street that goes for quite a while, and it's got bars and restaurants on both sides of it and lights coming across it, and they got policemen on horses. That it's pretty cool. I mean, they're cordial and everything. It's like, I don't know, it's a nice area, but you just got to know, I think, where to go and like revamp certain spots as they go. But we took there's like a raised train downtown that we took it to the baseball game, and it went around, like the old Joe Louis Arena and everything, and to see some of that. That's one of the most interesting cities in the world, just because when you're there, you want to see what it was like back when it was booming, because there's just so much stuff there that's just run down and shut down. It's unbelievable. Have you guys seen that picture they showed of when was like Detroit in its prime, Tony? Into the 60s? Or
like I wasn't here then. I'm old, but dang, man.
I'm just saying, do you know? I'm not asking if you experienced it.
So I'm more of a Chicago guy, so I don't think Detroit has ever had a prime.
Well, they were unstuck. Like, so there's a picture of the from a satellite back when they were like in their prime, and from the satellite, the lights, like where you could see where Detroit was brighter than New York City and LA and all of it. I mean, it was like just lit up.
When all the car companies were there and only there, that's when it was really happening. It's probably the 70s, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I would say. I don't know. I wasn't there. I was born in the mid 70s. I don't really remember them, but
when you get up there, you see the town of Pontiac, the town of Cadillac, all those like were named after, certain things. Cadillac actually moved their headquarters back to Detroit. They moved out and went to New York City. They're back in Detroit now. So that's huge. But so anyway, so yeah, this is a really interesting area. So
it is. There's a lot of really cool suburbs. The landscape and everything up there is really pretty. It's very scenic. Michigan is a beautiful state. I don't think I would choose to live there on purpose, and go Irish, their colleges or their sports teams. But that's just a guy with an opinion that's, I don't know, throwing distance on the other side of the state line. Go Irish.
Yeah,
Go Irish.
You're a Purdue fan, Tony.
See, I used to work at Notre Dame Stadium back when it was the Rudy. Like, I was in high school when they filmed Rudy here. I grew up in South Bend. I was born in South Bend. And, I live and breathe Notre Dame football, but I went to Purdue because I realized that a superior education outweighed the sports.
I'm sorry that you live and breathe Notre Dame football.
Whatever, Will.
They stink.
They're better than Illinois Wesleyan.
Well, you know what? I can't dispute that. They are.
Touche.
All right.
Hey, I don't care if you don't make it into the championship game of the playoffs, but they make the team. They make it to the playoffs, and
Oh,
that's a lot better than a lot of folks.
And
I'll
they
take
get
it.
absolutely trounced every time.
Oh,
That's all right. But then the team that beats them gets beat by the other team, or the team that ends up beating them wins and beats Clemson or Bama, the other team, by a larger margin. But it's Notre Dame that sucks.
Man, all I'm saying is I think they should be barred from all playoff activities.
Oh man, that's it. I'm out. I got to roll. I love you, Will.
It's been good.
They're getting barred. You want them to get barred from what?
Playoffs, man. Every time they're in the playoffs, they put on a poor appearance.
Every time they've been in the playoffs, they got beat by the national champion too. By the way, they actually they got beat by Ohio State, or not Ohio State, but Alabama this last year.
Yeah.
But Alabama steamrolled. Was it Clemson then in the finals, or Ohio State, whoever it was? I mean, they steamrolled everybody. Like we actually hung with them.
I don't know, man.
That was a team that was going to beat anybody. I mean, that Alabama team was ridiculous. But you know, when you look at I don't know. I watched Notre Dame. I've followed them forever, but it just seems like they're getting there, but like it's just depth. So like at the beginning of the year, you know, like last year they'll beat Clemson, right? And then it's like the end of the year is kind of where they always have that like upset to Boston College or something, after injuries and stuff. And they, these Alabamas and Ohio States, they got so much depth. I mean, they got guys transferring that end up being like Joe Burrow. Didn't he transfer? And,
right.
Yeah. I mean, like it's like. And that's just, you got to get to that level, I think. But, but it goes to show that there's probably only about 3 teams that are really at that level. I mean, at the end of the day, that's, we squeak in as the 4th one each time, outside of those top 3 tier teams. But that's a whole different, ball game. So I don't know. We'll see. Did Tony bail?
Yeah, he said he had to handle something real quick.
All right. Who we got? Oh, there she is.
Guess who?
What is going on?
Oh, well, let me see. Have you ever heard of 5 Points, California?
5 Point?
5 Points, California.
Never heard of it.
It's above Huron off of 269, about 16 miles. And that's where I am just pulling into. Sorry, I am late, guys. This was definitely planned that I would have had 2 hours early. Exciting day.
What'd you have?
Loading onion. Do what? Oh, what happened today? I came out, I unloaded in Bloomington, California this morning, and I came out and went to get on 10, and it was shut down. I mean, both sides. And I'm like, it's like 8 o'clock in the morning, 7:30. What are we doing here? And there was a guy over right on the other side of Ontario going into LA that was on top of a bridge with a weapon. And he had decided to use the weapon down towards the traffic. So they shut both ends of 10 down. And, we waited for about a little over 2.5 hours for him to decide whether he was going to jump from the bridge or he was going to, I mean, it was like you had no idea what he was going to do. So that put me to where I was like trying to scramble to get up here and get stopped and get seated. But hey, I'm going to be here to ship her. We'll see how that goes today. And I can't wait to talk to y'all. And I'll show you my little face here in a little bit, in just a few minutes.
You ever get to the point where you get too impatient and you just yell jump or do it already?
You know what I said, and when I was told about it, and I ended up and I got a DOT inspection too on the way up here. So I went through that. I did that at Castec Scales there at Santa Clarita. So I did get that, got clean, got stickers on everything, and it was kind of crazy because I actually said, suicide's a sad thing. But I would have been standing there with my mama finger and my painted fingernail, and I'd have been going, you know what? You have 2 choices. You can either jump carefully and don't get hurt, or you can either get down and get over here, because if I have to come after you, it's going to be worse than both of them in the mama tongue. So that, that's how I would have handled it. But you know, it just, you know, you still say a prayer for them, you know, because none of us know what's going on.
You guys point a weapon at traffic, and you know that's you know, you get to the point where it's like, hey, you know, yeah, jump carefully and don't get hurt. I like that.
It gets crazy. I mean, it really does. You don't know which way you want to go or whatever. And when you hear me spouting off here in a minute, you're gonna, you know, we talked about the real life of trucking. Well, here we are, gang. We're out in the middle of a onion field, and we're gonna load onions today. And yeah, we're gonna see how this goes. It could be quite interesting. I'm thinking from what I'm looking at here, and yeah. I'm ready to, yeah, this could be real interesting because I'm not sure that I have a very long wheelbase. I have a 291-inch wheelbase, which isn't, of course, the longest, but it's long. And, yeah, it's one of those docks down deep. So we'll see what happens. We'll get the maneuvering going on.
You own your own trailer?
I do not. I'm pulling Flinger Brothers. I'm actually in one of Kyle's trucks. And probably if I don't clear this gate here, as I'm easing through the back side of the parking lot here, he's probably going to whoop me because I didn't take care of his trailer. I do have Kyle has been fantastic with, you know, to me at Flinger here. You know, when I've had problems with my truck with Faith last year, Kyle stepped up and put me in one of his so that we could kind of keep things going and made it happen. And, you know, you don't find that in everywhere you go. Not only that, but, you know, when things with my arm and things like that, you know, I've been in dispatch with them for about 5.5 months before I came back out on the road. And, yeah, it's been really, really, really great. And I'm going to throw this in here. These guys are going to come up and ask me load numbers and things like that. And if you guys want to be a part of that, just to see how this goes at shippers, because there's a lot of people that are probably listening that don't know what goes on, has no clue.
Video?
Okay. All right. Well, hang on just a second, and we'll definitely have this. He's really neat little guy. Yeah. I wish we had the video going. If I can get it connected here again. Hey, sir. How are you? I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. We're turning our reefer on. We're running onions at 55 degrees. We're getting about 43,000 pounds of them and getting 18 pallets. These are going, actually going back to Kansas City. And I'll deliver these Sunday. 1,681 miles. And a good, you know, 3 runs and a couple of sleeps, as I say, in the hours of service world.
Yeah, sleep.
We'll get that done, and yeah, I'm going to get out of the wind. Can I have you sign your name here? Yes, sir, I can. I can do that. Is this wind about to blow you away, sir?
Yeah.
Absolutely, sir. We're going to have a temperature check here. It's been a while since we've done that out here.
What's
I'm going to go right here, sir. So go ahead. I can talk.
Where are you delivering to?
I am going over to Liberty, and you know that thing's gonna tell you I'm hot because I'm just a hot mess.
That's okay.
You did get that right. I'm just kidding. 97.2.
97.2.
I've been sitting in front of the air conditioner. Does that count? It's so nice.
Oh, they got do the COVID or the temperature test?
Yes, I do.
Okay. They require that you wear a mask.
Yes, sir. I can do that. Thank you. Hang on just a second, and I'll give you this number. Hang on just a second. This is a check-in. I'm actually doing this on my deck plate, and then I'll proceed into the office here, and they're still wearing masks in there. So it is. It's like so many people don't realize that you're out of the truck at the minute you hit their parking lot.
You have a good day. God bless you.
Oh, God bless you too, sir. Thank you for your help. Yes, sir. Well, that's one check-in. Now let's go do the second one, and then we'll have a third one. So I'll have 3 check-ins here. basically he does the temp and does the reefer check. I'll go in the office and do the product check, which I've got a custom product on this load because I'm not able to carry 19 pallets. I have to cut it to 18. And then I'll go on the dock and I'll have to do another check because the way I want it loaded because of the weight of my truck.
Gotcha. So 18 pallets gets you to 43,000 pounds?
Probably. A lot of people don't, like we were saying earlier when we were talking, TJ, was it a lot of people don't realize and don't understand how we go about loading or the places we go out to load. I'm literally in a onion field. There's three cement docks that are down in the ground and the covered.
So you're talking like a cement ramp that's goes down into the ground, so when you back in, it gets you at ground level? That's what you're saying?
Yeah, I didn't quite make it out. It was breaking up.
We're back.
So Ingrid.
Yeah, kid, I'm on the research. Sorry.
So there's cement docks that are actually down in the ground so that it puts your trailer at ground level?
Yes, they are. They're down in the ground. What they've done is they've dug them. Hang on a minute, guys. He keeps walking away from me. What they've done is they've dug down in the ground and put the docks, the cement docks, even level ground wise with the covered shed of the grading shed here. That's what I was saying is it's going to be interesting to see is if I can break over the top of them without dragging fuel tanks and stuff.
Oh yeah. What I mean, what kind of grade are they at? Are they at?
Well,
I mean, they probably.
I'm going to say they're
level and then kind of drop, right?
They're level and then they do drop, but it is the whole truck and trailer, and you're back down in the dock probably. Once I break over the top, I think it'll be fine. But you're a good tractor length from the edge coming back out of it, which comes well. I'm going to see if I can connect and get the video going, if you don't mind, and then we'll get into Yik Yak and we'll just talk truck driving from the driver's side. Hang on just a second. Let me see if this will work.
What do you think, Will?
I'm intrigued. I want to see the whole deal.
Have you done much? Have you worked with produce much?
I have, yeah. So our first customer actually was a produce shipper. So I have a lot of experience with understanding loading and unloading. It's super, super, super unique. Most of them are pretty high touch, very specific, and it can be a little tedious to work with. It's not the same as just a standard refrigerated shipment. And a lot of times weights are higher. They are very picky about the type of trailers you send or how heavy that truck is before it scales. So making sure that they can load as many onions or potatoes or whatever it is onto that trailer as possible. So typically paying for the weight, and it is unique. It's completely different than any other refrigerated shipping.
Yeah, I'm interested to see this. Ingrid's she dialed in because of service. She's getting right back on here. She's going to do video. So I'm interested to see what these docks look like. I mean, they kind of make sense. We've got some stuff we run for automotive on some drop deck dry vans, and it's like the opposite. It's basically like a ramp dock that gets you up because those are obviously lower. But again, with the grade and how it is with from track, front of tractor to end of trailer, it's got to be set up to where it doesn't when the weight goes in, it doesn't bend it between axles. So it's interesting how they do that type of thing. And they talked about the shaking of the trailer. Now Tony showed a picture earlier. That is
a real thing.
That they go that high?
Not always that high. Sometimes not. That's not as elevated like that, but it's real.
Man, I was gonna say,
Yeah.
like what do you have in there that you got Jello or what? I mean, I don't know why it's such a
It's typically bulk produce or any type of like floor loaded material, something like that, and they just tip it back.
and they're going they go drive in on that. Is that is that mainly just because of lack of availability of some of the other types of equipment that would usually run that type of bulk freight?
Kind of depends. If it's a vented van, you can load produce on vented vans, depending on what type of produce. So sometimes we'll source a vented van versus a reefer if the shipper will allow it.
We did that. I had a back when I was dispatching. I had a guy took a great load out to Arizona. I was trying to get creative, and so who called me? It was watermelon season, and
Yep.
so I get a call. And like I saw the rate, and I'm like, man, I want this so bad. So like, luckily he was like an experienced driver. He's like, I take it right down here to the Loves and have him basically vent it. I mean, cut some holes where they need to cut them and put some screens in or whatever it is, and
Yeah.
and that's what they did. I decided to like send the. I got a broker load from a broker to get him back. So just said it had sent pictures showing that we got it done or whatever. I mean, it cost us like like with labor it was like $250, and it was right down the road from where we were going to load. But the rate we got was way worth it. So we do have a vented van in our fleet still.
Nice. Man, I have a funny story about loading produce. It was probably our second week in business back in 2017, and we were always loading potatoes and onions and stuff. And we had a driver loading potatoes out of Idaho, and this was probably, I don't know, maybe 6 p.m. And I was actually on the track working out in between sets, and this guy calls me, and I'm like out of breath, like just got done running like a 400-meter sprint or whatever. And he's like, man, they loaded me over. I got to go back. Right. So he's like overweight, over gross. And he's sending me the bills. I've got him like texting me the bills in between me running out of breath and whatnot. But it's so like loading produce and stuff like that is so specific because it typically takes quite a long time to get loaded. Whenever they're loaded, you have to verify that they're loaded with the right amount of product. Otherwise, you're going to be short paid. And it's very often that the product will be loaded over, in which case it takes the driver a whole lot longer. So it's typically a specific type of driver or carrier that likes to haul produce because they understand what they're getting into. And it's not just the standard, pallets on, pallets off, pretty cut and dry. It's normally a lot more than that.
Yeah, so sourcing the right carrier there is key, right? Because you gotta make sure because my gosh, a guy gets loaded with 38,000 pounds and the rate con said 36, and he's not moving his truck till he gets another $800,
Right.
and it's a little bit different then, right? I mean, are they? I mean, if they're over, are they taking some off?
Almost never. I mean, so a lot of times it'll say that you need a certain amount of bags. Like, let's say you're loading potatoes, it'll be a certain amount of bags per pound. And I think the number is like 840 pounds or something like that, like a certain amount of 840-pound bags. And so if that truck shows up without that number of bags, like, yeah, they'll load it short sometimes, but you will 100% be short paid or fined by the customer because of that truck getting to where it's supposed to be with less product. And most of these produce shippers, they don't really play any games with that piece. They'll short pay almost every bill that you have if you show up with one or two less bags. It's wild.
Really? And so
100%.
it's on you, not on the shipper.
They'll never, like, you'll be getting short paid consistently.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, and so these shippers though, are they, a lot of times when it comes to like actual product, they're trying to, sometimes they're trying to overload the truck.
Correct.
But if they're short in the truck, is that just because they
like
sell more of it? Or, I mean, how's it?
Yeah, a lot of times that'll be because you didn't prepare the driver properly for what weight was going to be loaded on the truck. And so they'll say, I can only haul 42,000 or whatever, right? Like that's what I can take, knowing that they can scale, 44.5 or whatever it might be. They don't want that extra 2,500 pounds. And they'll convince the shipper not to load it, and then you'll get short paid that. So it's not necessarily because the shipper is trying to hold on to the product. A lot of times it's because either the driver can't scale or they decide that they don't want to. And so that ends up putting you in a bind once that truck gets loaded, because you'll get the bills and realize that you're, short X amount of bags.
Yeah, I've ran into that before just with other ones where I can't remember who I was working with. The reps like, yeah, he's saying he wants to go back to the shipper. He can't get he can't scale this. It was 39,000 or something, and he said something to do with his truck. And I said, man, I mean, I know guys that are people that have my old neighbors. They used to have a huge a huge Kenworth, huge truck, and their own trailer, which was specialized, which had the specialized trailer. At the bottom had compartments for wraps and blankets. Had the pallet jacks. It was heavy, and they could scale up to they could take 33,000. And so yeah, they try to get out of that real easy. And sometimes it even is just to get extra money.
Yeah. So it's interesting, and obviously Ingrid is well versed with it and understands. But it sounds like even at the dock and shipper level, there are some intricacies with it that make each place a little bit more specific to load in and out of.
But if she said she got Wi-Fi, there she is.
Nice.
Hey. Oh, it says you're still connecting to audio. Hang on. Can you hear us? Hang on. It says you're connecting to audio. What do we do?
She might have to call in, actually. Oh, wait, no.
Oh, hang on. She went to mute. You're on mute. Hey, you're on mute. See, how did you connect to sound? How did you connect to it? To audio?
Oh, you can click a button on the screen for you that'll say ask to unmute, and it'll probably give her a prompt if you click on her.
Oh, there we go.
How about now?
Oh,
Yeah.
There we go. All right.
I actually got the lady to give me the Wi-Fi password to the onion shed.
Love that.
See, I was just about to say that. I get you deal with it every single day, it seems like, but I got the best drivers, man, in our fleet. Get out of the truck. They talk to people. They're nice. They, try to help how they can. They're cordial, and like you get so much more done, and it's so much easier for you that way than any, doing it, just some of them don't even want to get out of the truck. That's I think that's the hard part.
That's it. I went ahead and checked in, and she gave me that password. She literally, see, I told you I used my other phone. Sorry about that. She had no problems doing that. But I mean, same thing. I mean, I walk up and talk to them just like normal. I asked her, I told her I needed to cut a pallet. She cut the pallet. I asked her, I had to sign a thing. I had 3 things to sign today. And one was actually a waiver for CARB, saying that we're CARB compliant. Also stating that I would do driver count, which for anybody that doesn't know, that means that I go on the dock and I count, and I have 810, which we call cases, but 810 bags of onions. And it's my responsibility to make sure that there is 810 and 810 to get them when they unload. That shortage comes back on me as a driver.
We just talked about that.
I was just telling them that we load a lot of produce, and that was a big part of the first 6 months of our business, getting well versed with understanding, saying to drivers, you have to load X amount of 40-pound bags, right? 40-pound bags, or 800, however many bags. And like you said, short pays and all kinds of stuff happen if it doesn't happen the right way.
It takes time, but all it takes is paying attention. It's really simple. You learn what different produce or what different product or commodity, whether it's dry, whether it's, whatever, you learn how they pack it. In other words, how a tier is. who leaves, what products have a hole left in the middle of the pallet. And that's for air for this kind of distribution stuff. So you learn how many's in a tier, how they're laid, because they'll be laid this way, this way, this way, this way. And each tier is different, but you'll know by how many's in a tier by the way they're laid. So yeah, it comes to learn that. A lot of people won't slow down today to do that. And they don't feel like that's their job as a driver. And that is our job. It is our job to make sure that what goes on that trailer is my responsibility from the time I get here and the quality of it. I'm a big quality control person, and I check my expiration dates. I check the quality and I look at stuff. And over the years, I've learned what is it and what it looks like, because I'll get back there when I unload. And if they reject something, I have the FDA officer or inspector that I'll say, okay, show me. A purple-headed cauliflower, a change in grapes, or even meat. That's another major thing. But I think a lot of times in today's, it's kind of like driving in general or what's going on. We older drivers don't slow down long enough to maybe help the new drivers that are coming in, like the older drivers helped us when we came in.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I think a lot about the best relationships I've had with drivers and carriers over the years. And some of the best partnerships I've had have been with carriers that do exactly what you just described, talking about the attention to detail with everything that they haul. And it's such a different experience booking a shipment with them, because I'm like, you're going to tell me everything I need to know before I need to know it. It's like it's not even a problem. I could like go to sleep. You could run every single load that I ever had, and I can go to sleep and not have to worry about it, because they never got rejected, right? Stuff never happened. Pallets didn't get loaded weird or whatever, because their drivers were attentive and they're paying attention to what was going on before it became a problem. And that allowed that process to be so much easier. And I'm like, I'm trying to use your truck every time I can. If there's an opportunity to get load you or one of your drivers, I'm trying to do that.
And that's I was going to bring something up too, because like I see, like the other day, somebody, obviously there's increased wait times right now, and there was somebody put a post out on LinkedIn about wait times, and if we why it is so long, and that drivers should get paid more for wait times and this and that. And I look at it from like the standpoint of when you do things, people, drivers think about, that you hear a lot like that's not part of my job, or people were putting in the comments like they didn't sign up for it. I'm like, when you became a driver, like signed up, you knew that there was like a 2-hour wait time, like usually 2 hours free, right? Because they were all complaining about that. It's like something you knew, right? But when you do things correctly and do things right, you make relationships, and you're smart enough to know like what shippers not to go to, which ones to go to. And when you've got a good relationship, they're not sent like if Will wants to keep that truck that he can just go to sleep, not worry about it, he's not going to send somebody in there with a fake appointment or with to a place where they're going to wait that long, right? I mean, that is such a key thing, but they don't want to do the extra work or the extra. It just doesn't seem as much of an art anymore. It's more like, you hear a lot of people talk about how they just want to get in the truck. They shouldn't have to do this. They need to make money. You can make more money too when you get somebody like that on your side. I mean, you see that, Ingrid? I mean,
yeah, I'm totally with you on this, and I guess I kind of see two sides on this. One is none of us like to wait because we're impatient.
Right.
I mean, that's just human nature. Okay. And it's a whole lot easier to bitch about stuff than it is to find ways to make it better, or to accept the fact there's nothing you can do. In produce, especially, and in freight in general, there's going to be wait. There's going to be times that you got to sit, and again, I've seen this deal about what is it? I want to get paid while I sleep. I want to get paid for every hour that I'm gone from home. I don't think anybody twisted any truck driver's arm to come drive a truck. And I think everybody knew before they got here what you signed up for. And I don't think that when you guys go home at night, nobody's going to pay you to go get in your bed and go to sleep. I mean, it's like, let's get to some common sense. Everybody wants old school common sense. Let's just use some just regular everyday common sense of how we do this. And you just said it, if you really pay attention, again, and I keep saying pay attention because I direct that to myself too. Shippers and receivers. My receiver this morning is one of my normal receivers in Bloomington, California, and it's a lineage. And anybody knows lineage, we all know that is a wait time, and that is a definite. You don't really know. It doesn't matter if you have an appointment or not. If you're 5 minutes late, you may get charged $200. It may be $70 some. But it's now that you learn your cycle and you live by that. So I get there early enough that I know where I'm parked. I know where I'm going to go. You don't pull in their driveway. You don't go up to the gates, nothing until 10 till 6. And then they unlock the gates and you go through and you check in, to where now the ones that won't pay attention and read signs because they don't have time.
Yep.
And the signs say, do not pull in the driveway till you check in, park along the street, whatever. So I guess my point with this is learn the basics, learn the details of the basics. And those basics are pay attention to your shippers and your receivers, and you're going to get a lot farther in the same way. I pull it in. I first want to check in every morning when I get there because I plan my morning that way. I plan that I'm going to be standing at the gate when he opens it, and I'm going to be the first one in line with her to check in. And boom, I'm in the gate, and I'm in 6 o'clock, and 7, I'm out the gate and out the door, and they're all piled up outside. But all they got to do is read the sign.
Mm-hmm.
I don't do anything special.
And as an owner operator, especially, I mean, I've always said this, like, there's a lot more operators than owners, when it comes to it. I mean, you're running a business at the end of the day, and you got to be able to do those things and think ahead. I've had drivers that knew that just they knew the place, or they knew they were gonna be late. They'd go get they swing through Burger King, grab some sandwiches for the guys. Or I remember the one guy used to always bring Burger King breakfast over to him to get himself loaded in time, or just to even just say sorry for being late. I mean, just little things like that. That's like the one guy knew what shipper to put his Trump hat on when he pulled in. You know what I mean? Like, just, I mean, at the end of the day, it's just he knew where he's at and what it was going to take to get in with those people and have them like you. And it's such a big thing that I've always said this, and I'm glad you brought this up, Inger, but I've always used this. Like, drivers are going to bitch, and it's understandable. I would be bitching. I mean, you're going to bitch because you're on the road, you're by yourself. A lot of times there's so much stuff that goes wrong. You got to vent, you got to bitch. That's what you do. But the best drivers that I've ever dealt with, the really good ones, they're going to bitch, but they'll bitch afterwards. Like, you'll call them and you'll be like, did you get unloaded? Yeah, I got unloaded. Yeah, all good to go. But son of a bitch, when I got in there, they had this, and that dumbass, he's back here. So I went over there and I jacked this up and I helped him. I said, but all he's doing is telling me the problem he's solved, right? It's the drivers that pull and say, start bitching about stuff, and it's like, where do I want to go? And it's like, well, did you go to the guard shack? You're like, well, no. I'm like, okay, there's step one. Like those are that's the difference, is that initiative. I will sit and listen to you complain all day long about a situation you dealt with if you've already dealt with it. Because those guys just know. I mean, I've got drivers that get out, they go and they, like what you said, they go talk to people. They find, if they're running a dedicated route, they're saying, hey, when I get in here, I could shave a half hour of my time, which would allow me to do this and that. But if is there any other trailer parking, like over here in this rock lot? And he walks over with them and talks about space and where he could be, and because he's going to be there every night. And like they just come up with ways of being more efficient and utilizing those people that are on the docks, because they're not, people on the docks aren't hustling like they are. They're not out hustling to make that money. Like, they're hourly salary. And if you can get them fired up with you and trying to find a way to make their job easier, it's so much better.
Drivers, for some reason, have become to the point that they think shippers and receivers are against us.
Mm-hmm.
So many will pull in a place or not even get there yet, and they're already that I can imagine how this is going to be. Or they may sit at the dock, or I may be sitting out here waiting on the phone to ring. Yeah, they're in the office. They're in there jacking around and bullshit and then whatever. It doesn't really always work that way. It doesn't always work that we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. We don't always know that everybody showed up at work to unload or load. We don't know about product, if all the products, and these are the things that as a driver, I really wish that some of us, and I'm speaking myself, would back up and maybe get off shipper and receiver's asses so hard.
Mhm.
We feel like that people are on our ass all the time. We're not. It's not a me just because we're a driver. And we seem to make it that way a little more for ourselves. But when you step out of it, there's a whole lot more me's in this whole circle of making the industry complete than just the driver. Although if you didn't have us,
Mhm.
there wouldn't be a transportation industry, but there's a big circle. And I think a lot of times drivers forget the fact that shippers and receivers are here not to hurt us. They're here to help us. I would love to see some shippers and receivers, and I can understand a lot of them that kind of have an attitude towards this, or might have short or barricade themselves back in an office, and you talk to a little bit and you can't, what I'm saying? Because the attitudes between the two, whether shipper, drivers, whatever, receivers, drivers. And I really wish that maybe there was, how do you open that communication line of acceptance? Because there's almost not an acceptance other than you drive the truck, back the truck in the door, let me get my shit on the truck and get out of here.
But you could
The
dictate.
portage on, it's 112 degrees. Sorry for your luck if there ain't no TP in it. And, and at the same time, you turn that around and say, you have a bathroom in there, but it can't be left clean. So it's hard to leave a door unlocked and leave people, to have to clean up after like that. So where is that line? Where is the line that you get some more communication and some more cooperation between shippers, receivers, and drivers?
And you can do little things to. I've always said this. It's funny you said that, because I always compared this with, like, I just see it a lot with, like, younger brokers will have bad experience with drivers, and it's because it takes a little bit while. And Will, you could attest to this, I think, to get experience to really source good carriers and good drivers. When you first come in, it's like, oh, big rip here. I'm going to take this one-off carrier. Let's get him set up. He's been in the industry 3 months, but they don't realize this is the seventh MC, out of somewhere in Chicago or something. But what happens is then that's such a bad taste right in their mouth, right? And then you've got drivers that then deal with bad brokers, because it's the same. You got to think, like, the age gap between a typical broker and a driver is fairly large. And so you got guys that have 30 years of experience that are dealing with some young kid at TQL and vice versa. They don't know how to handle it. But you can, if you're smart enough and you're dictating your experiences, like, as in, if you're coming into a shipper, and every time you come into a shipper, you've got a log that you're writing down, what your experience was or how it is. And I've always just been one that I want to dictate my experience by being able to talk to people. So when I got into brokerage, I knew that there's a lot of carriers that you're going to deal with that just don't get it. But I also knew that a lot of times that dispatcher who's just hammering you and yelling and going off the hook, it's because the driver's in his ear. And, with our dispatch operation, our drivers and dispatchers get along quite a bit. I tell these guys, like, sometimes they don't like each other. And this guy's just bitching at him, yelling at him, because that dispatcher may have made a mistake, didn't tell him something. Now he's got to get paid, and he's yelling at you. And so I've always just, like, used that, like, hey, listen, man, I get it. I was in dispatch for 3 or 4 years. I oversaw it, and I know what it's like. And I start trying to relate with the person. I start trying to think of, like, what they would want to hear. And it's unbelievable how many times they just back off as soon as you try to relate with them, and whatever bad day they're having or whatever issue they're dealing with, and you say, hey, I get it. I get it. Hey, you're, at a shipper, say, hey, you're in a union, right? You're not in charge. Your hands are tied. Maybe this or that, whatever it is. But, you're also keeping maybe a log of what these shippers need, or what they even have kind of, for accommodations, if you got to have something with you, or if you just don't even go to them. I mean, is that something that you do?
I totally agree with that, and I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, I watched this guy pull out of the dog. And the age gap difference, I have found that kind of like the newer generation of drivers, you can try to reach out and help, but it seems like there's a bigger problem dealing with the age difference between broker and older driver than there is between younger driver, older driver. I have more of I have some of my young brokers that I have jam up great communication and relationships with, but it took developing them. It took the fact that for some reason I had to prove myself for them to trust me, but they didn't feel like they needed to prove themselves so that I trusted them. And it was more like, you don't get it, I'm the broker. And we've come down, and don't get mad at me when I say this, there's such the attitude of, I'm the one in charge as a broker. I'm the one that's telling you what to do as a driver, and this is how it's going to go, and this is the way it's going to go. And I know, after almost 42 years in December, is how long I've been out here. And when you come at me with something that's not going to work, or that just like this pallets, 19 pallets is not going to work. I have a big problem with the younger brokers understanding 19 pallets isn't going to work. Yes, it is. No, it's not. Yes, it is. Just load them. Load them, go wherever you got to go to scale them, and you'll see.
That's
well,
full
right
scale.
now where I'm at, probably the closest scale is about 35 miles.
That's full scale, Will, and you can test this. That's when you
Exactly.
get younger brokers in, and the model's changed. I mean, it didn't used to be, some of these bigger brokerages, they started going to that, like, hire as many in as you can, turn and burn, right? After 3 months, if you're not making X amount, you're out, right? And these guys don't get it, but they've got, so the big thing that I find with people is that they got pressure from the customer, right? And they know that, like, it's such a big thing in the brokerage world to land a customer, right? To have a good customer. And they put them on such a pedestal, and they don't know a lot about freight. And so when they have a tender or they have a direction from the customer, they're going to go with it. They don't want to have to go back to them because they can't have conversations with them, right? It's all about having conversations. Like, you can't pick up the phone and call your customer and say, hey, 19 pallets is probably not going to work. Is that true? I'm talking to my driver saying 19 pallets isn't going to work. Oh, let me check it. Sure enough, those are conversations you can have. But I've always told, the younger generation of brokers, they do get screwed over quite a bit by certain drivers. But again, you can dictate who you deal with. But at the same time, one thing about somebody that's older than you is they want respect. They want to, and drivers especially love teaching people things. Like, drivers love, like, I always tell brokers, like, ask them questions, learn from these guys, like, have as much phone time as you can with drivers. You will learn. I learned everything I know in the industry when it comes to, like, outside of, like, the digital and the broker side, from drivers, just being on the phone with them, man. Like, some of the stuff they say, like, I'm asking questions, I'm like bright-eyed, and they love it because they are out there and they want to be able to feel like they're maybe changing one broker at a time or whatever it is, and getting people excited about that. But that's how you really do it, whether it's a driver or a customer. And I think drivers maybe the same way. Like you said, you wish you could do it more with the younger drivers, but I think that's the whole thing here, is just that communication side, right?
I don't know if you know this. I went to broker school. I have an engineering degree. The thing is, most people who pick up the phone, you don't know who the person is on the other end. Mm-hmm. And having those communications with them, not just because they have, like, gone to school, done anything like that, because their experience speaks for that. They do have a lot to give. And there's some drivers out here that will amaze you. Mm-hmm. I mean, amaze you. I mean, I just want some of them as my mentor, absolutely. But it's you can form that relationship. The thing is you just have to have the patience. You have to be persistent, and you have to be kind and patient, and just be accepting. And that's kind of been a hard thing for me to learn, but it's worked. It's worked. There's still the good, the bad, the ugly, and there's always going to be that. We all know that. And every day there's not going to be something that's not negative or something that goes wrong, because every day there's always something wrong. So I think the education that you can get, or that you can give to a driver, because I don't know if you guys realize how much you give back to me, is huge. It doesn't even matter if it's a conversation about freight in a lot of people's lives, but a driver that sits out. I've been out now since May the 3rd. I've been home a couple of days. And you know me, I'm like, I don't ever get bored, because I sing to myself going down the road. But still, having that conversation with you can make my whole day a whole different look. Having that conversation with dispatch, not cutting off, somebody slowing down and listening, or even just asking how we are. We can get pretty bitchy whenever we feel like nobody gives a shit. And I'm going to say we, because I've not met a truck driver yet that didn't have a bitchy side. And if there's one out there, I apologize, but I'm not apologizing, because you're telling a big fat lie, because you have a bitchy side. So, it makes a difference. We don't have that afternoon that we can turn the computer off, walk out the door, shut the door. And even though we may be taking it home with us, it's still a difference of atmosphere, or a difference of people, or communication with people at home, at the bar, at Walmart. I mean, the Walmart greeter. I think I'm going to become a Walmart greeter. But anyway, and it makes such a difference. And I've been talking about that, and I think y'all know that. St. Christopher's Fund. Y'all have heard of St. Christopher's Fund, I'm sure.
We donated.
Is working on trying to create kind of like a buddy system, to where drivers can reach out to one another, that need just some one-on-one or some time with somebody. Phone time, if you're in the area to sit down and have lunch, or you're at the same dock, or that's a huge thing. But you guys are the ones that are our communication trees. I don't know if y'all realize how important you are in our communication, and how our day's going to go.
It's huge.
You make us or break it.
So we donated probably close to 50 grand to St. Christopher's last year in either May or June. I have to look it up, and obviously a wonderful organization, but the stuff that you're talking about with communication resonates so much with me, because I just think if you humanize everything that you're doing, you will be so much more successful in it, right? Everyone on the other side of that phone or that email is a person going through something that has emotions, and whether it's a good day or a shitty day, or right, they're just having a good time or not having a good time. I just think about, I spent a lot of my career helping train new people and bring them up and develop what it looks like to get them up and rolling. And I'm on calls and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm having a hard time with this. And I'm like, okay, so like, let's walk through, who we spoke with or whatever happened in that phone call. And there was no relationship developing. No one asked, how are you doing? What's going on, right? No rapport building. It's just, hey, where are you? It's like, okay, like, when was the last time somebody called you and said like, hey, where are you? And you responded positively. That's not how this works, right? Like, let me talk to this person and, try to figure out what's going on. And obviously, they could be having a tough day, and maybe the next time I call, they're a little bit more warm, but like, these are people in every scenario on both sides of the phone or email or wherever it is. And so if you take that approach, everything is going to be easier. Like, it's always easier to work with people that you like. It just is. Like, it's always going to be easier to do that.
And so I always say, like, why compliments mean so. I think why compliments mean so much to people is because those are usually outside of your normal interaction. Like, it's like an extra effort, right? A compliment is like an extra effort to do, right? It's not like a normal communication, as in like, hey, point A, point B, this, that. And when in freight, you see things move fast, right? Things are always moving fast. So that extra time or effort is not always put in. I've always found that, like, when you want to build a relationship with a carrier or a driver, when they deliver, if you say, hey, listen, man, you did a great job. Like, I really enjoyed working with you. And to be honest with you, I'd love to have you on another load. Like, that right there is so huge. I mean, how many people are telling him that? Like, he's gonna remember that, or she's gonna remember that. It's gonna be a big thing because it's just that little extra effort of, like you said, not just saying, where are you? Right? You know, you call a driver and ask where he is. The first thing that hits his head is like, I just downloaded 2 fucking tracking apps, and you're gonna call my ass at 3 a.m, ask where I am? Like,
Correct.
you already tracked me twice on 2 different apps. What the hell? You know what I mean? Like, you just called me 20 minutes ago or whatever, you know? So those are things that, like, that could be there. You know, I know that. I go into it, hey, listen, man, I hate to bother you. Hate this. My customers all over me. They want a status update or like a location update. I just wanted to call you to confirm. I know you're in tracking. Like, just, again, you understand it's human. Like, you get it, like, instantly that they're like, okay, all right, yeah, all right. You know, this is it.
You just hit another thing right on the head, is your approach to a driver, and the response from them. You know, tracking apps is something I'm not real happy with right now. I'm pretty pissed off at it how this is working on our side. And if you ask most brokers or you ask anybody, they're going to tell you I'm wrong. Well, most need to do their homework if they're going to tell me I'm wrong. I'm going to address this really fast, and I'll say what I was going to say is, did you know, we're told download the app. Boom, when you're done with the load, you'll leave the load, and you will no longer be tracked. Do y'all believe that?
No, that's not true.
Absolutely not. But we know that's most likely what it says.
No. I didn't accept an app last week. Okay. 1, I'm a female on the truck. 2, I'm out here by myself. 3, I'm all over the country. 4, some things that I haul, nobody really needs to know about but the shipper, receiver, my company, and FMCSA, and the insurance company. And so I didn't accept the app, and they called me and said, hey, we need to get your status update. I said, oh, okay. I said, I'll be glad to give it to you. Gave it to them. And she said, oh, yeah, there you are. I said, what do you mean there I am? She said, oh, I've got you right here on Project 44. I said, how in the hell did you get me on Project 44? She said, because you're on Project 44. Your phone number is tracked all the time. Your phone. I said, so you're telling me that you, as a broker, pay for the tracking services from Project 44, who all the, how that works, you guys know. So my phone number is being tracked. Yeah, but your name's not on it. I don't give a fuck if my name's on it or not.
Do you have
Nobody should be tracking my phone when I am at home. It tracks 24 hours a day.
Here, let me touch on that real quick. So there's a couple things to this, and this is a great point that you brought up. Number one, yes, that one thing I always preach to my people is that talk to your drivers. So like your Project 44 integrates a bunch of different apps. So like if you have a different tracking app and it doesn't start right until they actually go and initiate that with 44, but because it's saved, it'll start. The thing is, I always tell drivers like 40, because there's like places like that now can integrate a 4Kites or a macro point, whatever you have, even though it's 44. When you get done and when you want to stop being tracked, go into your settings and turn off cellular data for that app, or just go into the app and hit end or whatever it is. That you got to kind of manually do that, because as a broker, they're going in and they have to like select how long it's for, right? Like, so they have to select for, X amount of hours, but they probably usually go over just in case the load goes over and they don't have tracking. Because one thing I will tell you this, Ingrid, I've sat in a lot of boardrooms and been to a lot of customers and visited. It's such a huge push, and Will, you can attest to this, tracking percentage. They all want to go EDI now with their tracking and visibility, in which they're, I've got a driver on MacroPoint, right? And it's pinging into my system, into my TMS system. My TMS system is then turning around and kicking that to the customer. And that's required. Like, there's certain customers we have that you got to be at a 98% tracking quota to be able to be on with them. It's a big customer, good customer. And that's not only 98%, but tracked through the whole load too. They'll break down a scorecard at the end of the month showing how many times there was a gap in tracking or a pause or whatever it was. And so that pushes so hard. I think right now brokers are trying to adjust to the fact that they all have such a huge push. You got to be on MacroPoint. You got to be on 44. And the way that things are getting integrated too is the 44 can integrate, and I know in our system, even just a truck number. Right? So if you got a GPS link or whatever it is, a dispatcher at one point gave it out. And now all I have to do is go in and type in truck 44 and boom, it starts tracking. Because you're in truck 44. Well, Ingrid, you're in a truck today that you weren't driving a couple months ago, right? And so that's like a big thing there. And just as a driver, I think that's one big thing I think we should be able to get is out to the education on like what customers are demanding when it comes to tracking and ways to help yourself when it comes to it as well, because everything's changing so quickly. There's just so many ins and outs to it. It's crazy.
This is where tracking should be done by the trailer.
Yep.
Because you know what? It
that.
doesn't matter where I'm at.
Yep.
It matters where that trailer is.
Yep.
So, because that trailer is what they're concerned about. They're not caring if I get out of the truck and go to the bathroom. They don't, but that's what's getting tracked. I can get out, drop a load, and somebody else is going to pick it up and say, take it from the yard to Chicago. Okay. Well, if that tracking's not swapped over to that other driver's phone, then their load's no good of being tracked.
Mm-hmm.
What is the new, the one that goes on trailers now? So that's what I'm saying is, this is where the driver's side of tracking is getting lost, and where somebody is not thinking in shippers and manufacturers that if you want your product safe or you want to track it, then put the tracker with your product.
Yep.
Don't put it with somebody that's going to be separated and away from your product. Because I could be in there eating and somebody come out and steal the truck. Well, it's not going to help you whatsoever as a shipper or manufacturer, because I've got the tracker in there with me a big old piece of coconut pie.
And like you said, if another driver, you know how much money, Will, think about how much money that costs. I always think about this. How many times like somebody gets on there like, what the hell? Driver's showing in Nebraska. Why is the driver in Nebraska? He's supposed to be picking up in 20 minutes. And then you call and you're like, you call the dispatcher. He's like, I'm having a local driver pick it up, take it to my yard. And then this guy's going to be coming through tomorrow to grab it to deliver it. Okay, well, now I'm going to put the local driver on tracking, right? So now this guy's still on tracking because each time you put somebody on, it costs money. Now you got two people on tracking, right? And all the one guy's doing is picking it up and going 15 miles. And so, but how many people don't catch that? How many people don't catch that? So you got this one guy on tracking and nobody knows where the trailer even is. It's sitting in some other carrier's yard and you have no idea.
It's like, where, again, we're going to go common sense. Where is it so hard to understand? What is the new tracker? It's on the tip of my tongue that we put on the trailers. It's strictly for the trailers. I do it produce all the time. Topco does it. Direct does it.
Not frog something. It's like a name of I know.
It's like a name of a fruit or a nut or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Anyway, it's awesome. I mean, it's awesome because then the receiver, once again, like our old recorders, gets a full readout by just punching that number into the computer, and it gives them every single thing there is. It doesn't, if I stop at the yard and I decide I want to go run to the house, well, it's tracking me to my house. And then I get a phone call that says, well, wait a minute, where are you at? You're in an apartment building in the middle of Joplin, Missouri. And it's like, here we go. And it's happened. So anyway.
Yeah, I think I agree with that because it's unbelievable though. Like the EDI, the integrations, everything with TMS systems, everything is getting more and more advanced, but the actual tracking methods are lagging. They're way behind. Matter of fact, it's just in the last year, did you not have to call a number, like to get on MacroPoint, call a number and hit 1? Right now you can actually do it through an app Like it's way behind. It really is. And so you're just now getting to where cell phones are becoming more easier to track. So to transition to now, the device that you can put in with your freight is just, I don't know. It is baffling that they haven't gone to that yet. I don't know.
I used to pull munitions for DOD, and anybody that doesn't know Department of Defense. And I had a computer in the truck directly connected to DOD in DC, and I had even an emergency button under my dash. Okay, so I mean, yeah, they didn't put it on me. They didn't give it to me. They didn't say stick this in your pocket. They ended up and they put it on the truck, which where their load was, and every 15 minutes it would ping, that kind of thing. But yeah, it's things like that are things that I guess I could say that mean some of the little things to me, not like the big things, but some of those things mean some little things to me. How are you guys working, or how are y'all seeing the hours of service going on?
I think it just depends on your operation. I mean, like our drivers, we have a lot of drop trailer receivers, do a ton of drop trailer shippers receivers, and it's more Midwest based and stuff. So I don't know. I mean, like for us, it's not nearly as bad. I think there's a lot of people that know what they're doing and how to handle it. Our safety department too is very, very strict on who we hire and how we hire and what we're doing, and so and training, and we don't deal with it very nearly as much. But I know for a fact that I've got a buddy that drives, and it's just him and his dad, and he's got how many DOT pullovers for just not. I mean, not even just, you're not trying to do anything wrong. You just didn't type it in wrong or hit the right button or whatever it was, and or judge his hours correctly, right? And he's for the first couple months, he's like, man, I mean, I was hitting the brake, pulling the brake, turning the truck off, and I had like 1 minute left. You know what I mean? Like he was not understanding how to work it all. So I think that's one big thing I'm seeing, but also just with the wait times too. I don't know. What are you seeing out there?
I think that's another one of the things that makes us bitchy too, or that and I was actually part of the ones, and I'm sure you read the petitions, because I know you too, and how you keep up with stuff. When the petitions were put out for the new hours of service, and one of the petitions, the two that were looked at was OIDA and Trucker Nation. Well, I was part of the Trucker Nation. There were two of us that wrote that one, and it needed some tweaking. It still needs some tweaking. I didn't realize until the last, really since I came out with my arm and I'm really doing some split sleep reverse and stuff to make stuff work. I'm tired of chasing the clock. I'm so sick of chasing the clock. Like you said, that 1 minute. It's just, and I think a lot of that is coming from all sides, whether it comes from shippers and customers at brokers, and brokers to dispatch, and dispatch to drivers, and DOT and FMCSA back to drivers and to customers and shippers. Because I mean, hey, everybody is thinking that this declaration that's out, that if you're hauling food, you can run declaration. Well, I got news for you. I can promise you real quick, not unless that it's an emergency and it's declared by the shipper. That's it. And they will contact the shipper and ask if and they have all rights to. But I have chased the clock and not really in a would do it different per se if I didn't have a clock in front of me. It's like that mindset. You know how you go to bed at night and you got to get up at a different time than you get up in the mornings, and it's like, shit, I'm gonna oversleep. I'm not gonna hear the alarm. I'm gonna oversleep. So you wake up like every hour on the hour, and it's like you feel like crap when you get up, and it's almost like chasing that clock. And it's like, the closer it gets to it, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm 3 hours from an 8-hour, a 30-minute break. You're 3 hours from it and you're already worried about it. Or you're already planning at, while you're doing your 10-hour break, where you're going to stop for your next 10-hour break, but you're going to wait 2 hours for somebody to decide to jump off a bridge or shoot somebody that's not under the bridge anymore.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's gonna be terrible.
you see what I'm saying? It's just gotten,
Stop.
so I don't know if that's affecting, because I know I've gotten phone calls from brokers going, where you at? Where you at? Where you at? You know, and I can get pretty pissy when you keep calling me and asking me, and I'm doing everything I can possibly do. My main thing is point A to point B. And if I need any time or need to do anything in between, that's after I get to point B, because I'm straight there. But I didn't know if you had anybody that was, you know, that was just like today. The whole, our time here was completely messed up for, you know, and here I was on a clock until I got into my ag exemption bubble. And now I'll have lost those hours, but you know, I didn't know how that was running for you guys either. And how you were handling it maybe is a better question.
I think it's changed the way that we approach scheduling and accepting loads. Understanding how a driver would execute it makes a load more or less appealing, which drives up the cost of the shipment, especially if it really doesn't matter if it's contracted or spot, but if you're looking at a load and going, okay, I know the shipper, I know their hours, I know this receiver, I know their hours. This is a 150-mile run, but because of the way it's set up, right, this is going to be a 2-day run for a driver. They're not going to like this, or they're going to be there all day, and what should be a couple-hour run is going to end up laying the driver over. It's made us think differently about scheduling and managing shipments depending on where they're picking up and where they're going, because all of that is driving which carriers want to take the shipments. They might say, hey, I don't want to go there because it's going to mess up my driver's clock and it's going to throw off the whole week. Well, we make different decisions based on the type of freight that we're accepting, because if carriers aren't going to take it, or it's going to mess up their ability to haul, it messes up our ability to service the freight.
I tell you right now, you want to be a better, and again, I came from the dispatch side for brokers. I tell these guys all the time, and most of us here, because we do have assets, get it, because we talk about it a lot, but like, understand hours of service. And there are brokers that have no idea about it. They don't ask about it or anything. I mean, like when I've got a shipment and I know it's, X amount of miles or whatever, like I know I'll even talk to like some of the new people, he's got to have a fresh clock, but he can do it. What do you mean fresh clock? So when I'm selling the load, I'm saying, hey, how many hours you got? How many hours you got enough hours? How many hours you got? Okay, yeah, because you go here. Okay, yeah, we could probably do that. Or like you can come up with an idea, or even like when you're selling a load that like is hard, right? So like you got a 6 a.m. pickup, right? And you're trying to sell that load, and they got posted for the next day, right? Well, you got posted for the next day, and they can't find a carrier because everybody they talk to is getting unloaded in the morning because they're posted for the next day. And so a 6 a.m. pickup's hard. I'm like, post it for that day, for the day before. Start making outbound calls on trucks that are posted for the day before, because here's what's happening. Those guys are getting there and they're shutting down for the night when they get unloaded, and they may not get unloaded till 8 p.m. or whatever it is. And you can at least tell them, hey, I know I'm not going to be able to get you a load today. If you want to get one tonight when you get unloaded, but you can get over here to the shipper and you can shut down. You get your 10-hour break there. They'll load you right away at 6 a.m. It's just like, basically getting a load tonight. You're gonna have to shut down for 10 hours anyways, right? You won't be able to drive till 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. But you can park there on site, be there first in line, ready to go. They know you're coming. Things like that you can do, and vice versa too, where you're saying, you got a load that picks up that night, right? And you can't cover it for that night. Call on trucks that are posted for the next morning, because a lot of times they're thinking, okay, by the time I get unloaded, I'm just going to go over here and say you've got an easy load. I'm going to only have like probably 2 hours, 3 hours left. Not going to even mess with it. I'm going to go find somewhere to park, shut down, and just find something for the next day. Well, you can cover that load that night if you call in a truck that's posted for the next day and find somebody like that and be like, hey, it's like 4 pallets. It's right there. There's a place to park right across. All you got to do is go over there. Can you be in there by 9 p.m.? Those are like knowing that stuff is not just a way to build capacity and make yourself a better broker, but it's also a way to avoid problems like Will said, like be out in front of stuff. Like if I ask somebody, especially a dispatcher, I mean, I deal with dispatchers here. I've dealt with them in brokers. A lot of times they make mistakes. Their driver doesn't have the hours and they took this load and they call the driver and tell them about it. I've done it. I've booked a load from one of my drivers and I've called him. He's like, I can't run that. What are you doing? You know, I only got 3 hours. Ah, shit. Now I got to call the broker and tell him that I can't run it. You know, it's just a big thing.
You know, I'm probably jumping here again, but I think brokers could be a really huge help because they are the ones that deal direct with the customers, the shippers, and receivers on truck parking.
Yep.
Huge help by either relaying or finding out the information of their customer, of their shipper, of their receiver. Do you have on-site parking? If you don't, do you know where the closest is? Or do you know how far out it is? I mean, it's like if you want to go into Detroit, you know, most of the time you're 60 to 80 miles out. Well, you got to figure that goes against your clock in the mornings when you're trying to get in. Plus, it's a time, you know, if they can't check in until 30 minutes before, maybe 2 hours before, is there going to be any room there at all? Hold that thought. Hello? Good deal. Thank you. We got a door, guys.
Lovely.
Oh, you got your door?
We have a
Ingrid,
door.
Ingrid, it was
Do we need
great.
to call back in on the audio or
Well, actually, you know what? Will's got to get real at 7:45.
Yeah, I gotta
We're about a half hour over, but we got the half hour
let's
back.
try to do this when I can be
So we're
here
good.
the whole time. I'm so sorry about today.
We're gonna get another one because I want Tony on too, because Tony's to all horses because he's weird, and so he drove too. And Tony actually texted me. He did have an emergency of some sort. I'm gonna call him here, see what's going on. But we're gonna have you on again. We don't have anything really planned for
I'm
next
sorry,
week.
guys. Thank you.
Great to meet you.
I
Thank you.
promise you. I'll
Um,
just take the whole day off.
yes, yeah. There you go. Let us know when you got a day off. We're gonna get it done because I love
Just
it.
give me a day. I'll put it in.
Okay,
You guys are great.
awesome.
I'm
Thank
gonna
you.
go load onions.
All right. Be